What up YouTube? Salvador Brigman here, and today we're talking about some of the differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. As you know, Kickstarter and Indiegogo are two of the massive, major online crowdfunding platforms where you can raise money for things like technology gadgets and gizmos, design products, comic books, films, an indie publishing project. There are a lot of things you can raise money for using crowdfunding, and Kickstarter and Indiegogo are the two major platforms out there. So in order to compare these two colossal mammoths, the first thing that I want to do is I want to go into just a little bit of the history between these two. So historically, how have they behaved in the marketplace? And I got started in crowdfunding in 2012. So I'm familiar with the history and how they have changed over the years. You coming to Kickstarter or Indiegogo now is going to look very different than it was in the beginning. So I'm going to first go over that. I'm also going to go into some of the more technical differences, the things if you're running a campaign, what you need to know, the functionality differences, and really the technical differences between these two. And finally, we'll round this out with my own recommendation. Who is a good fit for Kickstarter? Who is a good fit for Indiegogo? And that way, going forward, you can be much more informed about your choice. So before we get into some of the background and the history, the first thing that I want to say, like if you're gonna not watch this entire video through, this is the number one thing that you should take away because it's very practical going into your crowdfunding campaign. And that is that on Kickstarter, there is only what is called all or nothing crowdfunding. So all or nothing crowdfunding means that you need to hit or exceed your fundraising goal if you want to keep the funds that you've raised on Kickstarter. So for example, let's just say that you're trying to raise money for an indie film and you have a $10,000 fundraising goal. You have to hit or exceed that amount. Otherwise, you can't keep the funds that you've raised. So you have to raise $10,000, $11,000, $15,000. You have to raise more than $10,000 in order to keep the funds that you've raised. If you only end up hitting $5,000 out of a $10,000 goal, none of the credit cards of the people who have backed that project will actually be charged. None of them will experience that charge, and the money will just go back to the people who initially were saying, yes, I'll fund it. So you would have to, that would be a failed Kickstarter campaign. You'd have to launch another one and try to hit or exceed that $10,000 goal if you want to keep the funds raised. Now in Indiegogo, they have what's called all or nothing or keep what you raise funding, except they use some other lingo or terminology for that. So the terminology they use is fixed and flexible funding. So fixed funding is the same as what Kickstarter calls all or nothing funding. Fixed funding is you need to, if you set a $10,000 goal, you have to hit or exceed that amount of money if you want to keep the funds that you've raised. It works the same way as Kickstarter. Under a flexible funding goal, flexible funding is what we call keep what you raise. So keep what you raise. Let's just say that you have that $10,000 goal and you end up only hitting $5,000 of that goal. Then under flexible funding, you would be allowed to keep the money that you've raised. So this is a major difference between the two platforms, the type of funding that is allowed. There is all or nothing on Kickstarter, and there's both all or nothing or keep what you raise on Indiegogo. So that's the first difference that I want to get out of the way here, because that is very crucial if you are looking for crowdfunding dollars, if you are looking to raise money for a project or a business. But now let's get into some of the differences historically between these different platforms. So first of all, historically, Kickstarter has been much more of a closed-off platform. They haven't been very receptive to opening up their operation, to networking with partners, it's been difficult to get contact with the members of the staff, asking questions or these different things. They've been very closed off historically. Now in recent years, that's been very different. Last year, I think they've done a great job putting out more resources, putting out more support, really interacting with more partners. They've been getting a lot better at that, but historically, they have been more of a closed-off off platform. And in addition, they've been much more of a curated platform. So by curated, I mean they used to have a thing called Kickstarter Staff Picks, which is now called Projects We Love. And basically this is where a member of the staff likes the project, or it's very in line with the theme and the values of the platform. So Kickstarter says, yes, this is a project that we love. And when they do that, it will actually affect your ranking on the website in terms of the magic sort, in terms of the different sorts that they have. You know, they have like popularity, most funded, etc. Magic. Being a project we love can improve your overall ranking on Kickstarter. So historically, they've been a bit more of a curated platform, and that has also spilled into the types of projects that they allow on their website. So they haven't allowed a lot of the different types of projects out there that are allowed on Indiegogo. So you have to reference their rules and their guidelines to see if you can raise money on their platform and if your rewards fall into their category of acceptable rewards. Now, one example here is Kickstarter does not allow Fund My Life type of projects. So Fund My Life type of project is like, hey, would you be willing to support my college expenses? Or would you be willing to support this memorial fund? Or would you be willing to donate to my charity? That's a Fund My Life type of expenses, and you can't raise money for that on Kickstarter. You can only raise money in order to create a project which then gives something back to the community, like a pre-order of the product. It gives back rewards in some way. A nonprofit can use Kickstarter, but they have to promise something in return for the funds that are being pledged. You can't just ask for like a charity donation on Kickstarter. So that's really important in their history as well. The curation, in fact, they're a bit more closed off and they're a bit more strict with the rules and regulations when it comes to the platform. At the same time, I think that kind of mix and that component has led to more popularity for the platform. You know, Kickstarter, it can be debated, but I would say they're 3 to 4 times bigger than Indiegogo, their competitor. You can even argue they're 5 times bigger. You know, it really depends on what you're looking at, like the funding volume, the backers, the relative popularity, the number of projects being launched, the actual funding rate, what percentage of projects are funded. They've been a bit more transparent with that, showing statistics, etc. But I think that Kickstarter, by far, it can't be argued, they are 100% more popular than Indiegogo. They have more projects that have seen success. They have more people that are regularly backing projects. The community is bigger. And that is both a pro and a con. On the pro side, by having a bigger community, by having a large website, it's going to be more competition. Just because something is large and popular does not mean that it's a great marketplace to go into. It could be very competitive as well. So you need to make sure that you have a launch strategy, which is what this entire channel is for. You should go and check out some of the other videos that I have on this YouTube channel and hit subscribe if you haven't already. So these are the 3 things that stand out in my mind, at least, when it comes to the history of Kickstarter and sort of how they differ in that way from Indiegogo. So I want to move a little bit to the history of Indiegogo, what I've seen, and then get into some of the more tangible and technical differences between the 2 platforms. So when it comes to Indiegogo, number 1, has been way more open than Kickstarter. They've allowed a lot more different types of projects on Indiegogo than on Kickstarter. There used to be like a saying in the industry where if you can't raise money on Kickstarter, you probably can on Indiegogo. And that's just because they're more open. They allow many different types of projects. They've been much more of an international platform from the very start. Kickstarter has rolled out progressively to different areas around the world. Indiegogo has always been a bit more international and a bit more open to the different types of projects that they allow on their website. Now, another thing about Indiegogo that I really like personally is the degree to which and the emphasis they put on reaching out to crowdfunders, on reaching out to people who are just like you, are interested in running a crowdfunding campaign. You have an idea, you have a little bit of a marketing strategy, you have some budget there to spend in advertising and such. they're more willing to reach out proactively to crowdfunders, at least historically. So they've done things like, I've talked with guests and they've said, the guest has come to me and said, the reason why I decided to launch an Indiegogo campaign is because they actually reached out to me and they did a little bit of hand-holding and they answered my questions that I had about crowdfunding and about the platform and these different things. So they've been more receptive to that. And they've been a little bit more proactive about that. So I think that that's really an amazing benefit of Indiegogo, is it's easier to get in touch with the staff, and there's a little bit more relationship building that they've done in previously for that kind of a crowdfunding platform. The other thing when it comes to Indiegogo is Indiegogo has been much more aggressive than Kickstarter in rolling out new functionality and in rolling out different components of their website. So one tangible example here is with Indiegogo, they not only have Indiegogo, the crowdfunding platform, they also have Generosity. And Generosity is another crowdfunding website that they run that is for personal crowdfunding campaigns. So if you're looking to raise money for a memorial fund, vacation, traveling, volunteer work, anything really that falls into the category of expenses, personal expenses, things that you're spending money on, you can run a crowdfunding campaign for that on Generosity, on Indiegogo's website, Generosity. So that's one thing that they've rolled out. They also rolled out other things like Indiegogo In Demand pretty quickly. They've run out a lot of other facets and functionality to their website, having a marketplace where kind of like after the crowdfunding campaign is finished, you can check out all the other products that are in demand. So of the two platforms, that kind of sums up for me some of the history there, and just to understand the differences there between the platforms historically. And there are pros and cons, obviously, to both of them. The fact that Indiegogo is more open also means that the projects are going to vary in the funding levels, and also the receptiveness of the community to these different projects, etc. Kickstarter is more popular, more curated. It's also more competition. And another big difference that I'll round this out with is the fact that Indiegogo has what's called Gogo Factor. So Gogo Factor is a ranking algorithm that is merit-based. So they'll decide who ranks well on Indiegogo based on your overall Gogo Factor algorithm ranking. And this is how they've done it for many years. More recently, they've gone a little bit more into also having staff picks, these different things, but Gogo Factor has mainly been the way that you can rank well on Indiegogo. On Kickstarter, as I said, it's more curated, so there are other factors aside from just your funding and your popularity. So let's go into some of the technical differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And thank you so much if you've actually gotten to this far in the video. I do like to make longer videos. I want this to be comprehensive for you. I want you to feel confident going forward with your crowdfunding campaign and being armed with the best knowledge possible so that you're not making a mistake, that you're going with a platform that is best for you, and I will make a recommendation of that once we get to the end of the video. So some of the technical differences. So first of all, one of the great things about Kickstarter is the Spotlight feature. So Kickstarter has this feature where after your campaign has finished, I know it's kind of early to talk about the end of the campaign, but it's actually a really important component of crowdfunding. So after the campaign is finished, you can direct people to a specific link using the Kickstarter Spotlight feature. And after the campaign is finished, your campaign kind of turns into a nice layout where people can see the updates you've made and the various history of this actual project. But Kickstarter has this one call to action called Spotlight. So that's one bit of functionality. What Indiegogo does at the end of a crowdfunding campaign is they have an in-demand program. So if you want to, you can opt in to this in-demand program and you can continue to raise funds after your campaign has been completed. I have seen people who have launched a campaign on Kickstarter, They then use the Spotlight feature to direct people to their Indiegogo in-demand program campaign. So they're raising money initially on Kickstarter, and they're going to Indiegogo to continue to raise funds for their project, which is kind of interesting. I think the in-demand program is really good and very solid on Indiegogo. So that's definitely a piece of functionality that I would definitely consider for one of the benefits of Indiegogo. Another thing I like about Indiegogo is the secret perk option. So a secret perk is where you can share a unique URL with someone, and if they visit your campaign page using that URL, they will unlock a secret perk, something that no one else can see. So it's kind of a cool way to incentivize people maybe early on. It's a cool way to incentivize influencers, or people that are more valued backers in your community. You can use the secret perk feature in order to do that. Some of the other stuff that I like about Indiegogo, I think it goes without saying both platforms have really great campaign page design. It's very easy to see the rewards. They have good data and analytics about your page. When you go behind the scenes in the dashboard, Indiegogo is a little bit easier to run a referral program. If you want to incentivize and thank bloggers and influencers and YouTubers, etc., for promoting your campaign, it's easier to do a referral-based program using Indiegogo. It's not as easy with Kickstarter, but there are other options like Kick Booster, which can help add that functionality to the website. So in terms of the actual Kickstarter platform, etc., I think they've gotten a lot better at adding in functionality. They have Kickstarter Live now. They've been improving their functionality over the years, the layout, the design, etc. They have like the campus feature now and some of the tips and guides, etc. So these two platforms are continually evolving. And what I see is that Kickstarter is moving in the direction of supporting creators and creative types. They're doing that now with some of their other functionality and things that they're implementing, but it's really all based on creators, on innovators, on artists, etc. Indiegogo, in my opinion, has been way more commercial. They've been much more okay with saying that we're starting businesses here, and this is really a marketplace where you can sell products. You can pre-order products. Kickstarter shies away from the whole pre-order or selling of products, and they're more about supporting the creator and making this creation possible. Even their corporation structure is, I believe, a public benefit corporation. So they acknowledge not only are they trying to make money, they're also trying to do public good in the world. Indiegogo, to me, has been more commercial, which also you can see with their venture capital and the investments that they've taken on. I think they just have to lean a little bit more commercial than Kickstarter has been previously. So this video gives you an idea of some of the differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And it also sheds some light on the history between the different platforms. And it's really up to you to make a decision that's best for your project, the funding type that you want, the functionality that you want to have access to. This is your decision to make. I have seen many hardware products go on Indiegogo, see very good success. Also seen some great ones on Kickstarter, seen lots and lots of success. You've seen cell phone cases and these different things on Indiegogo. We also see similar products on Kickstarter. So while yes, I do think Kickstarter is more popular, most of my audience is interested in running a Kickstarter campaign. At the same time, I do have, I'd say, a good portion of my audience that are actively running Indiegogo campaigns and that are happy with their experience there and that recognize the marketplace there and the opportunity as well with the in-demand program. So I usually will first talk with a creator and get an understanding of what they're trying to raise money for. The project or the product, what it is that they're trying to bring into the world. And if it's something that I think could fit well in the Kickstarter ecosystem, I usually recommend that they go with Kickstarter and use the popularity and really plan to stand out from the competition. And then to use the in-demand program as another way to accelerate their funding. Now, there are some types of projects that just quite naturally lend themselves better to Indiegogo, and also that enjoy more of the funding type of Indiegogo, or more of a bit the hands-on kind of ability to contact staff. So with those projects, we will see them go more towards Indiegogo. So it really does vary based on the type of product that you have. But I will close out this video by saying one final thing, and that is that the types of projects that receive backing and pledges and orders from strangers are usually hardware, design, gaming. There's a physical product that people can own and people can hold in their hands. And it's usually something where it's a product that, something you might buy at a store or on Amazon. So like a cell phone case, or these different things, a watch, a cool game, a board game, tabletop game. These are different types of products that tend to see a lot of backing from strangers when it comes to crowdfunding. Now, there are also types of crowdfunding campaigns that don't get many backers from strangers, and this is difference that isn't really talked about very much. The types of projects that don't see a lot of backers from strangers usually fall into the category of theater, of film, of dance, publishing. These are more of the traditionally creative categories. So like a theater project, or a film, an indie film, or the publishing, you're writing your first book and you're looking to raise money for that with crowdfunding, you're probably not gonna see as many people backing your campaign via strangers versus one of the more hardware, design, gaming kind of categories. So you might see something like a breakdown of maybe 10% of your backers coming from strangers when you're launching in the more creative categories. If you're launching in more of the entrepreneurial, tech, business, tabletop game categories, you could see honestly 80% of your backers coming from strangers. So it's important to recognize the difference here, that if you are running a film campaign or a theater campaign, it doesn't matter as much which platform you go with, because you're going to be bringing the majority of your own crowd. And how do you do that? That is the secret sauce. That is the golden ticket. That is the question everyone has. How do you build a crowd? How do you get a crowd for your crowdfunding campaign? And that is exactly what I share with you on this channel. So if you haven't already, take a second to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out some of my other videos, some of my other content out there. I also have a great book out there on Amazon called the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which I'll be sure to link up in the description down below. But again, my name has been Salvador Brigman. Thank you for spending some time here with me today in the classroom, talking about crowdfunding and learning some of the differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo.